Hello everyone, my name is Saksham Dikshit and this is my channel Pentest Diaries. Today I'll make another video on the same series of lazy programming series, and in this video itself I'll try to cover the concept of instance variable and the class variable. So as we have discussed in our last video itself how we have to use the class and the object. Now the next thing is we're talking about the instance variable and the class variable, how it is different from it. If we want to get it modify the value of the class variable, how exactly we can do that. Everything I try to get it covered in this video itself. This is not a big video, this is just a addition of the previous video itself, but the concept which is most important, you just have to get understand about the instance and the class variable itself. So let me go through the theory part first itself. I'll make it clear you first about like how exactly the instance and the class variable get it defined inside of the class, and then later phase itself when we are seeing the actual code you can able to get it identify like how to get it modify the value of it. Okay, so if we're talking about the instance variable itself, so I'll go with the instance variable first. So instance variable, when we are talking about the instance variable, so when there is a class, inside of the class, whenever we are defining any function, and in that function itself, if we are defining any, I can say that a variable, that we call it as an instance variable itself. Okay, that we call it as an instance variable. If we're talking about, if I'll just go to the class variable, I'll just explain that also. So if you're talking about the class variable, so what is class variable? So if anything is coming out of it, like in the class, inside of the class itself, if you're defining any variable and the value itself, that we call it as a class variable. So remember it, if we are defining anything inside of the class as a variable itself, that we call it as a class variable. But inside of the class, if we are defining the variable inside of the class and inside of the function of that, then in that case we call it as an instance variable itself. So that's the only difference behind it. Now if we're talking about the actual concept behind it, so in Python it's a classes are of two type. The I can say that two types of variables that we have it in the market itself, like one is the instance variable and another one is the class variable. Understanding the difference between it, how exactly it's varied from it, so we just have to go through the I can say that a definition for it. So instance variable are the attribute that are specific to each instances of a class. They are defined within the method. Okay, that's clear about that's inside of the method itself, and are prefixed with self to denote that they are belongs to the instance. That's very important point. So that should be get it defined inside of within the method, and it should be using a prefix as a self to denote it that they are belongs to the instance. That's most important. Now if I'll talk about what is if I'll talk about, like, just tell me that where is the instance variable. This is the instance variable. This is instance variable. I can say self dot name is instance variable. I can say that self dot age is an instance variable, and whatever the value I'm getting it from there itself, whatever the value we are trying to get it passed, that to be get it capture over here itself. But this is the variable. I can say that instance variable. Okay, now we'll talk about the class variable. In case of class variable, it's very clear about it. If with the definition also I'll read for you itself, and then I'll just let you know with the code itself. So class variable are the attribute that are shared by all instances of a class. Now they are defined within the class, but outside any method all the instances of the class share the same value for the class variables itself. Okay, that's the thing, like whatever we are defining inside of it, that to be get it utilized outside also. That's our main purpose of it, and even in case for instance variable we can utilize it to get it modify the class variable. There is a method for it how to get it modified, like we can define the value and that to be get it updated. If you're trying to get it use the same variable outside the class also, we can modify the value also. We'll see in the code. So over here itself you can see this is the class variable which you are defining it. So inside of the class itself we have that. And now if we talk about the next section for it, what actually the difference between the instance and the class variable. So if we're talking about the class and the instance variable itself, so in case of scope, instance variable scope to be instance, each instance has its own copy. Okay, so it's having a limitation only inside of its instance have its own copy. Now talking about the class variable, so scoped of the class shared across all the instances. Okay, what it means, scope to the class shared across all the instances. So it's nothing like that, it just get it defined inside of the instance and say you can utilize inside of the instance only. No, it's nothing like that. It can be scoped in and shared be in all the instances which is present inside of the class itself. Okay, that's one of the thing. Now initialization, instance variable initialization inside the method. with self as a as we have discussed about it, we have to use it prefix as a self dot, then we have to mention the name of the variable. Now in case of class variable, initialize directly within the class definition itself. There is nothing like that, we are not supposed to use self, we simply have to get it define it, and that's considered as a class variable. Now in case of access, so in case of access, instance variable access and modification through the self only. Okay, now talking about the class variable, access through the class name or instances, but typically modified through the class name itself. Okay, that's a bit clear about it. Now we'll see the code. So this is the actual code about it, which I'll just try to get it explain you about it and going further with that. So let me explain you with the code. Let me open it. So this is the code which is supposed to use it for class and the instance variable. So I can explain you about it. First, what actually we have to define one of the class name, and as per from the last video itself, it's a similar like that. This is the name of the class. Now we are defining a class variable. So whatever the variable is coming out of the instance, there's if we are defining any variable outside the instance, then in that case we consider as a class variable. So that was the reason this we consider as a class variable. Now this is the instance. Inside of that, if I define any value itself, that to be considered as an instance variable over here itself. Okay, so that's also one of the things which we can copy it from the last one itself. As you can see, there's nothing like a instance variable over here, we are simply utilizing it. Okay, now going further with that, this is the object I'm defining it. So if I'm creating an object over here itself, then I can say like this is the name of the object itself, and now the dog, this is a class name. Now whatever the value I try to get it passed, that to be get it mentioned over here itself for the dog1 and dog2, both the values to be get it transfer over here itself, it to be get it capture over here itself. Okay, so that's clear about it. Now going further with the accessing instance and the class variable, how exactly we can do that? So if we're talking about the instance variable itself to be get it access, so in that case itself what we have to do, I'll talk about this is one of the function inside of the class we have it. Now what we have to do, we simply have to call this. Okay, I'm just calling dog1 as I have already mentioned it over there itself. Now I'll just mention dog1 dot details. So I'll just call this, I can say that object, and then after that the object I will try to call using this object, I'll try to call the function present inside of the class. So whomsoever we have defined the object belongs to that object, I'm trying to fetch one of the function which is present belongs to one of the class of it. So taking example, there is an object I have it which is belongs to one class. If I'll try to call any function which is present inside of that class, then in that case I'll simply have to mention the object name, and now I'm not mapping it to the class name, I'm directly using with the object dot, I'm just calling the function over there itself. That's the thing we are doing over here itself. So if I'll go over here, then in that case whatever the thing we have passed it for the dog1 and dog2, we can get it print that this stuff very clearly. But the special thing which we have to think about it, like dog dot species are the same. Okay, whatever we have defined inside of the function, till yet the class variable is not modified. Now what we have to do, by this way I'm trying to modify the class variable. So once we modify the class variable, then after that if I'll try to run the same command once again, then in that case what is the thing is preferred one, now the value of that is modified. So when I try to call this, in that case itself the latest value whatever I have updated, that to be get it reflected for both the things dot species. Now the local, this one is not considered it, as we have updated the value of the class variable, that updated value to be get it considered, and rest everything to be get it reflected like similar one. Okay, so I hope you are able to understand the concept behind a class variable and instance variable. It might be a possibility at the time of the theory itself you're not clear about it, but with the code I try my best to make you understand about that. So don't worry about the theory part itself, you can go through it, and even if you're not able to understand, just read it once again. From the documentation part also you can get the details about it, but the concept which I have explained it over here, that's most important. If you understand the concept, you can make the content by yourself. Like if anyone asks you about it, what is class variable, if you understand where exactly the class variable to be get defined, then you can make the content instead of just reading that multiple books, you can get that detail. If you know the concept, you can make the content by yourself. But if you're not aware about it, then definitely you have to think about it, try to club multiple things and just explain those things which you are not even able to understand. So try your best to get it, understand the thing first, and then on the basis of that try proceeding further with that. Okay, so I hope you like this video. If you like this video, please subscribe my channel. Thank you so much once again. Take care. Bye bye.